The game of life is hard to play. I'm gonna lose it anyway.
Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Lost Child 14,000. Yes, once again, I'm just walking all over Yahtzee style like it ain't no thing. I know if I do too many of these, it's just going to get tired, but I do want to branch out, do more stuff, make some cartoons, make some different cartoons, something with a different style, something that's not totally rambolic. Oh, well, what the hell. Today's game is somewhat of a retro review, but don't run out of the theater screaming just yet. The game might have already been forgotten by whatever's trending now on the internet, but I swear it isn't one of the ones that I played when I was a kid. You know, to take my mind off of school and possibly assist in suicide by sleep deprivation. No, it's game Dev Tycoon, a game from about a year and a half ago that was part tycoon game, part resource management. A game probably best known for self-insert, dream job, fanfiction, and all of the mods that it inspired on the Steam Workshop page. Join me now as I dive headfirst into the fictional games industry. Okay, all hype aside, the game is okay. It's semi-educational about both the console timeline and the creation of video games. To me, the game seems most centered around resource management rather than the direct control over a product, but I'll get to that. In the game, each of your employed programmers has a certain amount of skill in design, coding, and other facets of game creation, and can be leveled up in each skill accordingly. Although, I do have a small gripe here. The amount that you need to pay them is accrued by work experience, but the exact skill level of each employee is almost completely disconnected from work experience. Those looking to learn about the industry will find a good base point here. However, they will find little else in the creation of video games. You see, as I stated before, the game centers on resource mining and management, and as a game, it becomes both repetitive and, well, nonsense. In creating each game, you must allocate a time budget, as it were, for each facet of the game's creation, such as level design or backstory, and all this takes place over the following in-game months. While this is a good way to simulate focus on those facets of design, you do not set your own budget or your timetable. Money is the base resource in the game, but you must estimate your own budget outside of gameplay in order to see what you will spend before your money runs out. And these rough estimations of money can easily be thrown in favor of or against the player. Furthermore, your actual time budget, ignoring money, that you divide into the different facets of game design, is actually set for you. That is to say, the game limits you, depending on the size of the game that you want to create, to a few in-game months of total time. So it becomes impossible to, say, create an action-adventure game that is absolutely packed with features because A, the game says there must be a focus on one facet of game design and marks you off, for example, for giving a proper time budget into level design and then giving just a little bit more time into epic backstory because you can't add any more time or subtract time based on your budget. So the more time that you put into one area takes away time from another area. And B, because the game gives you less control over the real creation aspect of the games and all of its extra features, such as an open world or great epic backstory, which also depend on broader facets such as level design or writing, this means that only certain types of games can have specific well-defined matters of gameplay. Only RPGs and adventure games can have great story and world design. Only action games and racers can have good level design and combat. And when you finally reach the AAA level of development, this premise of focus in games gets thrown out the window because you still need to allocate time, like measuring out ingredients for the world's most nitpicky cake, but then the game yells at you and gives you a bad rating for not shoving as many possible features. Oh, well, never mind. 10 out of 10. Well, no, not 10 out of 10. Bear with me on this. You might argue that a game must have focus in order to be well received, but maybe I want to make a racing game with a focus and story. Maybe I want to make a rhythm game that has an open sandbox to do band tours in. Maybe I want to make a werewolf simulator with such great control that it doesn't play like a werewolf fish tank. All these games in real life could be focused and polished into an actual really good product, but Game Dev Tycoon appears to define polish as a broad facet of gameplay receiving the proper time allocation to scratch your head and do nothing in front of a computer screen. And what really throws all of this into light is the fact that you have almost unlimited time to debug the fucking thing. As long as you have money, you can actually debug a game for longer than it took to make it. And you still can't set your own time budgets to polish the features that you might actually want. Also, the game engine mechanics. Oh my god, the game engine mechanics. I seem to remember reading somewhere, in a game development sim, that an in-house game engine was supposed to make creating and integrating ideas faster, easier, and cheaper, where in Game Dev Tycoon it simply unlocks different features and they are by no means cheap to use. Let me reiterate that statement. You and your staff have created a program, which can later be sold or turned into shareware, etc. This program should make everything easier and balance more stuff to be used in tandem within your products. And the game makes you pay for the privilege of using your program, and it makes you pay for additional features which you had already paid for in order to have them built into the program. You're not paying your people a commission or setting aside a bit of the budget to pay them for something extra. In Game Dev Tycoon, building an engine just unlocks the ability to pay for a better designed game. My point is, it's a game about the industry, but that's all it's about. Developers need to run the studio like a business, know what they're doing in the creation and publishing aspects, and they also need to do research and advertise their product in order to make it better and more immersive and also sellable. They do not need to have a game with a level design that has a specific time allocation that is a direct proportion to its sound quality. And because the gameplay of Game Dev Tycoon is focused around making games more than anything else, it comes off as being very misinformed, especially about the creation of making a good, never-before-seen video game, and instead it lets you unlock the recipes for a standard game and standard features that would fit into them. Games as either art or as toys that you can sell need to be a bit more creative and have a bit more freedom, and I'm just going to spoil how to get good right now. You either A, hobble your team at the start and barely scrape by for a year or two as you're always leveling up one guy in the background, or B, as soon as you have about 10 billion in cash, yes, it's possible to do that, you stop making games for a fucking decade of in-game time, and then come back and start pumping out consoles and AAA titles and new idea stations like never before. It's insultingly unrealistic. No game company comes back after a decade of absolute silence, and absolutely no game development company only learns things from seminars and classes outside of work. You see, your games don't get better because you make more games. Your games get better when you teach your employees how to do their job, by actually funding their academic prospects in their career. Oh yeah, sure, you can put a lot of money toward the hiring and firing process, but in order to get somebody halfway decent, you might need to put thousands upon thousands of dollars into the selection process. So the game plays against itself a lot, and makes managing money a real tight end. And above all, it makes no sense half the time. But just when all hope was lost, and after I stopped crying and attempting to saw my own hands off, I decided to play it in a new fashion that would A, distract from this plight, and B, in some cases actually make the games that I wanted to make. Simple enough to do as well. I just had to think like our grand leader and start ironically naming things. First, I made a city-based strategy game for the PC, and when the option came up to name the damn thing, all kinds of possibility arose. King Kong Simulator, Mole Men Rising, and after a few minutes I kind of settled on the name Molotov Man, and handed it over to the cast of friends to get to work. Next, I made a casual dress-up game with AAA quality and swanky graphics and called it Armor Maker 2015. Next, an adventure game about racing and platforming and opted to call it Sonic 06, because I knew the game would probably call that a bad combo, etc, etc. Look, mods seem to come out every day for the game at time of writing, and while some of them may fix my gripes and make the game shine, the game I bought is immersive, but it's still extremely strict and boring, at least for 3/4 of it anyway, unless you put an ironic spin on it from the get-go. If you're lost on how to put a game together, then you should definitely play this game. But if you're looking to make a fantasy game studio that releases game ideas similar to the production of roller coasters and prisons of other Tycoon games, which you would like to see received fairly decently, then don't play this game and get Game Dev's Story for iOS and Android instead. Ha!